Hello, I'm Marcel. Welcome to this Accelerate Your Business series. In today's webcast, I'm guiding you through a path for digital transformation. Today we are hooking on to a couple of items which I will put on screen for you. And in these items, we will discuss the topics around converting your company into a more digital company. Before we go into the slides, I want to touch a survey that we did a couple of years ago on digital transformation, in which we asked our customers to bring the top challenges for their business processes. And on this slide, you can already see that there are a couple of items which you probably will recognize, which are about reducing cost and improving efficiency, improving the customer experience, reducing errors and delays, and reducing paper. And actually, in current situation, I think we have another challenge, and that is moving or working more from home. So working from home attaches to a lot of these things, because we have to make sure that we improve efficiency there and make sure that we can work from everywhere. So this is something we saw recently, and in this series we will go deeper into those topics. So for today, we are driving you through a couple of steps in becoming more of a digital master within your own business, and make sure you can do some steps in regards to digital transformation. We will start from talking about from paper to digital. Then we will dive into the ability to finding information more easily within your organization. Then the store and access part of content, the use of intelligent automation, and we will finalize the steps by talking a bit about the process automation and optimization. So to immediately dive into the first one, from paper to digital, we probably recognize that still a lot of information is residing on paper. We see that, or we believe that a lot of documents or a lot of companies were already fully digitized. But I think in the current situation where we have to work more from home, we also find out that still a lot of this content that we use is on paper, probably in your paper cabinets in the office, and it's not that easy to access unless you go to the office. So to become more agile and to make sure that you can access that information, you have to think about converting that stuff that is still on paper into digital formats. So to help you a bit about what you should take into consideration there, we touch a couple of topics in regards to bringing from paper to digital, so the scanning process. And a couple of topics are very important there. So first of all, of course, is the quality of your document, because if your quality of your document is not that good and you scan it as it is, then probably also in the rest of the process you will struggle with the content on the document. A big plus there is that with the current technology is that you can use optimizing image quality technologies to make sure that if your quality of your original document is not that good, that you optimize it and then it becomes readable and usable in the rest of your process. So this is one of the first pieces of technology in from paper to digital that you can use to just adjust and optimize the quality of the image. Next to that, of course, you talk about the type of scanner you can use, right? So you can use, traditionally we saw those big mail rooms where you had the big scanners, where a lot of bulk is being done. That is something we still see if you do a lot of amounts of paper at once. Then it's always good to have a dedicated scanner and have control over that process. But more and more we see that the scanning of paper document becomes part of your natural behavior within the office, and it becomes more decentralized. So we see that people are scanning the documents on their multifunctional printers, and even nowadays we see more and more scanning from mobile, and even those applications become more and more better, so that if you put your mobile phone on top of a document, it puts it in the right position to get the best quality out of the document you try to scan. The next point when paper becomes digital is that you have to do something with that digital document. So you have to make sure that you store it in the right way and that you use the content on the document. So one of the things that is very important when you scan is that you use technology to detect the text on the document. Because if you detect the text on the document, you can make sure that you can use the text also in the rest of the process for full text retrieval, or maybe just to get some information that is specific to a process. So this is one, next to, of course, naming your files right, using the right descriptions to the file to make sure that you can retrieve and find it more easily. Just like you did with your paper archives, where you labeled your document so that you know where to find it and what is the properties of that document. The next part is, of course, file formats, because there are dozens of them. And if you just make a photo with your phone, you will get a JPEG image, and that's probably not sufficient for your business process. So converting the document in that technology that was recognizing the text to the right file format, which is most likely PDF, is also a crucial step to take. Doing this in the right way, you will have a document that is accessible by everyone and complies to standards. And this is actually where PDF has a format called PDF-A, which is particularly built for archiving purposes. So these are just simple steps you can take by adding a small piece of software that can recognize your image, do full text recognition on the document, and use all that information for the rest of the process. So the next step, if you look into to the documents that are digital, we can step into the topic of finding information. If we are at home and we want to find information on the internet, we just talk to our phones, right? If I look into my own kids, they more talk to their phone than they type, and they just ask, for example, when the library is opening, and the phone will tell them when it's opening. So finding information at the home, in the home situation or in private situation, often is totally different than when you go into your office again. Because when you step into the office or in your office environment, you have your mailboxes, your file storage in a file structure. Maybe you have SharePoint sites or other repositories where your documents and your information is. And you often don't have the ability to easily search across all of them. And that causes that you sometimes are looking for 20 to 30 minutes on average for documents. If you sometimes we see that you cannot even find it anymore, and sometimes documents needs to be recreated. So what if you can just bring that whole home and private experience to the office? So this is where tools like enterprise indexing or enterprise search come around, which more or less put like a blanket over all of your repositories and make sure that they index all the information that is in there. And then they present, these kind of tooling presents you like a Google-like interface for your office. So you can type in, I want to look for something which is in the document. So for example, with an invoice, you can just type in an invoice number, and it will look over all those repositories for a document which contain that number. And if this is a number which is stored in different repositories or is used more often, and you will get maybe 10, 20 results, you can even narrow it down to say, okay, I know that the invoice was from the last 2 weeks. I know that it's a PDF file. And there you narrow down your results to come to the information you really need. So this kind of tooling is automatically connecting to the repositories you want them to index in and to search in. And even if you, like explained in the capture phase, did not do that full text recognition, this tooling can even do it afterwards. This tooling won't touch the original files. It will keep it as it is. But if it's an image only, it can do full text recognition for you, so that at least the index information is also the content of the document. So I think it's a very easy step before maybe you go into full document management or stuff that maybe is a higher investment or has a longer cost of the project, to make a quick win by just being able to easily find documents. But of course, if you want to do things right, you have to make sure you create a content management system for yourself. So you were working on a system that is doing content management in full swing, from capture all the end to the disposal of a document. And if you want to do that right, you're creating your own digital archive, let's say it like that, with the right properties to apply to a couple of standards. So I put a part of those on the slide, and to touch a couple of the crucial elements you have to take into account for content management. So first of all, the word records is relying on, it's referring to record management, and record management is more or less all the properties you give to a record, right? That's to your piece of content, right? So who can access it? How long should I keep it? Maybe you should dispose it after a period of time. Does it have personal data? All these things you store in a record to make sure that you apply to record standards that are already subscribed either in ISO certification or in local laws that you have to apply to. This is, for example, very important if you want to take care of or want to get rid of the actual paper documents. You need to be able to know if you can destroy those, and this is often being tested based on the way that you put your record management system in place. Another important topic is, of course, security. It's becoming more and more important because we all see the things in the news around cybersecurity, attacks on companies, access to sensible data. If you don't put the right security in place, then this could be at risk. And this is typically something a content management system is taking care of, because in a content management system, there is security options to be able to make sure that the right people has access, that there are multiple layers, that you can make sure that if you share documents with external sources, that the right security is applied there as well. So security is a very, very important item in content management for years already, and it's kind of a standard thing when you roll out such a system. Other things that are on the sheet are things like versioning, right? Working on the latest version, making sure that you can go back in versions to make sure that if you use a piece of content, that you always use the latest version. But if you want to see what changed over the course of the length of the history of that piece of content, so that you can also see what changed in that piece of content, which is of course also very important for collaborating, right? If you're collaborating on the same pieces of content, that you know who is working on it when, that you can together work on a document as good as possible. This has all been taken care of in such a system so that you can collaborate wherever you are. Of course, retrieval is very close to the thing that is below their mobile, as everyone nowadays uses a mobile. There are more people owning a mobile phone than a toothbrush. So if you look into that, people should be able to use their mobile equipment, whether it's a phone or a tablet or laptop, to be able to access the content management systems and to do all the things above in relation to collaboration and searching and all those kind of things. So a good content management system is like the solid base for all of your information. And if we then look into a more sophisticated things that we saw popping up in the recent years, we can talk about intelligent information, which is actually hooking on to things like artificial intelligence, robotics, analytics, where artificial intelligence are, for example, the robots that play chess, right? We saw actually a big robot with a lot of artificial intelligence and analytics capacity beat professional chess players just because the artificial intelligence was so good. To step into that, we simplify it a bit and we talk a bit about robotic process automation, because if we look into what you can already do today in your daily business, is you can easily eliminate this a lot of repetitive tasks that your employees are doing. So we see that highly skilled people have to work with systems, whether those are are legacy systems, third-party systems, the systems that are really connected to your business process. If they want to do their work, they have to gather information. And so most often gathering that information or doing the thing that they need to do in their administrative tasks is often a repetitive path of tasks that they do. And it's not where they need their real skill for. So if you can eliminate this repetitive task and really make sure that you use that skilled employee for their skill, then you create another layer of efficiency. So, for example, if you look into an insurance company, an insurance agent who is hired for his expertise on knowing, okay, is this really a rightful claim that our customer is making, and to do a valuable judgment, they need to go through systems to gather the information they need about that customer to, in the end, come to what they are skilled for, to look into the actual case. But their skill is not to enter an information management system or an insurance system, typing in the policy number, then look into the right lines of policy, see if the insurance is covering certain things. Those are repetitive tasks that they always have to do when they really want to use their expertise. And if you can let a piece of software do that, then they just mimic what that user normally would have done by clicking it, pressing the number, retrieving the right data. And they can just now let a software robot do that and give them the information they need so they can immediately go to where they are hired for and where they are experting. And this is just one example, but I think everyone that has an administrative role and have finance departments or contract management departments within their company, they will recognize that a lot of these repetitive tasks are there. And with a simple piece of software, you can eliminate that piece and you can let this be done by a robot. Even tasks that always have to be done often, you can let a robot do that like 24/7, right? Tasks can be done whenever information is coming in, robot can be triggered and it's automatically done. So if we then look into the last step, optimizing your processes, we are talking more about the complete workflow, because we talked about capturing information, we talked about the retrieval of information, making sure you use the right content management methods to store your data, but mostly content is starting with a process. So if you scanned a document, for example, an invoice, this invoice always has to go through a couple of steps within your organization before it finds its final place within the repository. And this is where we step into quality improvement by optimizing costly processes. Because if you have documents and content or content-driven processes and they are still very manual, there are a lot of negative sides to that. So, for example, the control over that process is poor. You don't know where the content is or the document at that point. Also, the responsiveness to the people that are attached to that piece of content are poor. So if you can eliminate the processes that you traditionally did on paper, or maybe semi-automated because you now forward that paper digitally by email, if you can fully optimize that by adding some workflow tooling to it, then you get full transparency and an optimized quality for that process. So just taking again that invoice example, if you get an invoice into your organization, you automatically recognize that invoice by recognizing the invoice number, the tax amount, the total amount. You already cover a lot of those things. In that recognition process, you can even let the software automatically get the vendor information out of your financial system. So that's added as extra information to the invoice. And as soon as you then press the process button, it will go automatically in the workflow. So it knows based on the vendor, on the things that are on the invoice, based on the invoice number, what route this invoice should follow. It can automatically check it against the purchase order. So you don't have to look for the purchase order, check it manually. It can check it. If the invoice amount is equal, then you probably say at a certain point, okay, we know that this invoice is right and we can pay it immediately. And if it needs to be checked, we can automatically bring it to the right persons in the process. And in the end of the process, when the approval has been taken place, it's automatically booked into your financial system. So all the connectivities are there with the users, with the budget keepers, with the financial systems to make sure that runs as smooth as possible. And in that way, you get optimal efficiency and quality. So if a vendor now calls you and says, hey, where's my invoice? The accounts payable department can immediately press a button and say, hey, it's at the financial director. He has 1 day left to approve. So latest in 2 days, your invoice will be paid. Instead of saying, oh, I have to look for that invoice and I will come back to you tomorrow. So it brings a lot of quality to your vendors. And you can imagine if you just take another process, what kind of influence this has to your customers. And if you have these kind of things in place, you get a real competitive advantage against your competitors who maybe cannot be so customer centric and have such a high responsiveness to these kind of things. So, and then we added one bonus step for you, and that has to do with if I have all of this or I have parts of this, I have to keep this up to date. I have to manage this. I need people inside of my organization that get this application. No, you don't. So this can probably be properly be managed by your vendor. So if you look into what we can offer there, we can offer a fully managed service package, right? So if you implement one of those solutions, we can make sure it's been installed in the right infrastructure, that the applications are managed, that the Windows operating system that is running on, that is always up to date. So you don't have to take care of all the things around it that you need to make it run. You can just use the advantage of the solutions itself without having the burden of managing it and keeping it up to speed and up to date. So this is stuff that we do all around our intelligent connected workplace solutions and specifically Workplace Hub, where we centralize all of that managed services towards our customers, where we fully manage everything for the customer, and they don't have to invest in people that are skilled to maintain all of this. And whether that's the IT platform it runs on, or the application, or the operating system, it can be fully managed. So if we close down this session with like benefits in a nutshell, we hook on to, of course, what we saw in that survey results earlier, but also to a couple of items that are very much related to this. So first of all, for example, mobility, very important nowadays. People are working from home. You cannot easily be in the office anymore. So this is really something where you can work from everywhere, right? If you implement these kind of tools, it will increase remote work and collaboration. You can access your information from everywhere, and you can make sure that even if you are on holiday and someone needs you to approve that invoice, you can just do it by click of a button, and it won't disturb your holiday with opening laptops, connecting to networks, whatever. So you can just have the ease of use there. And when it comes to productivity, of course, you create a lot of transparent workflows with optimizing those processes. You can automate office routine tasks. We talked about those robots that can work for you and do all that repetitive tasks where you actually are not hired for, right? You're hired for your expertise in something. And you can make faster decision making, right? So if you have these kind of things in place, you can do easy analysis to make sure how you can be even more efficient and improve more. So the quality, I talked about reaction time, especially to your own customers, right? You want to be the best company, the best business for your customers, so that you have competitive advantage against your competition. And these kind of tools help you with that by, for example, having access to instant information. So this is really, really important that you add these kind of things as well. And then the last but not least part, the security and compliance, right? Things like GDPR are in place now, taking care that you make sure that personal data has been treated right, that you have that you support compliance guidelines, so that you are fully compliant, maybe even certified if needed, and that you have end-to-end encryption to make sure that all your data is safe as well. So with that, we close down this session, this webcast on Accelerate Your Business, where we more or less give you a quick overview on some easy steps that you can implement. You can do them all. You can just take one of them and have a quick win already. It's all around what we call our digital workplace, so the intelligent connected workplace concept, in which we help our customers to get this done and to get the quick ROIs on all of those things. So please make sure that you connect to your local representative of Konica Minolta to talk about these topics, because I'm pretty sure that you will be amazed by the abilities that those technologies have and can bring to your business as well. With that, we're ending the session. Hopefully you are ready to reboot and accelerate your business. I'm hoping that you can connect to your local peers to get this done. So in this case, I rest with saying goodbye, hopefully seeing you in one of the next webcasts, and hopefully we gave you some tools to help you accelerate your business. Thank you and goodbye.